let's see. Let's see. Mr. Baker Jr. is not present, and unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Nicole. She's formally resigned from the zoning board at this time. Her job position has changed. She will not have time to. She will not have the free time that she did. So that's sad news, but life goes on. So everybody is aware. I think everybody saw this. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. And with that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open.
Second. I got a second. Roll call. That would be myself as a yes. Mr. Baker Sr.
Yes.
Change it to change Robert's iPad, please. Mr.
Can't
Haynes.
figure that out yet.
Okay.
Yes.
It's on my new iPad. So.
Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
And today, Mr. Galley.
Yes.
As I stated before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the chair position over just for tonight. I'm going to have Mr. Tanzi run this meeting. And with that, I'm assuming he has the legal advertisement. If he doesn't, I will gladly read it.
I've got it, Rob.
All right, Mr. Tanzi, chair is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, being 6:34, a remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. on the application submitted by the Town of Rockland, care of Douglas Lapp, Town Administrator, 242 Union Street, Town Hall, Rockland, Mass. 02370 for a special permit pursuant to Section 415.11C9. Uses requiring special permit. Section 415-79. Environmental performance standards and special permit pursuant to Section 415-89. Special permits and variances pursuant to Section 415-89.1. Zoning variances and Section 415-53. Circulation and off-street parking requirements. The applicant is proposing demolition of the existing Lincoln School building and construction of a new 34,968 gross square foot fire station headquarters building, including 6 emergency vehicle bays, 1 mechanics bay, firematic support spaces, offices, assembly, personal living quarters. The site design includes a parking lot with 28 spaces, a stormwater infiltration system, and associated landscaping improvements relating to the premises known as and numbered 99 Church Street, Rockland, Mass. Property is located in the R4 Residence Zoning District, Section 415-11 of the bylaw, and is further identified as Lot 137, Map 40 on the Rockland Assessors Maps. The owner of the property is the Town of Rockland, Lincoln School, 242 Union Street, Rockland, Mass. 02370. So just a quick instructions to the listening audience. The way the meeting is going to be formatted is we're going to give the applicant the first, it will be first up to explain the project. The board members will ask the applicant any questions that they may have. Our town council may ask some questions. Our building inspector may also ask some questions. We'll give the applicant a chance to respond to our questions. And after that, we will open the meeting up to the to the public. Anybody wishing to ask a question can ask it through the chair, and we will either respond to your question or we will defer to the applicant or town council or whoever as it may be most appropriate. So with that, I would like to give the applicant the opportunity to present their application to the board.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Laser. I am an architect with Schwartz Silver. We're the architects for the fire department at 99 Church Street. With me from my office today is John Traficante, Stuart Marshall, and I believe Amir Musa is also calling in on the phone. We also have our civil engineering consultants, Matt Zaroli and Stephen Powers on as well to help field your questions on and explain the kind of civil engineering components of the site design. And we also have the chief, Scott Duffy, and it looks like with some other members of the fire department. And with that, I can pull up my screen. So this, we have some supplemental images that we've developed in our office since the original submission documents, showing kind of renderings to give a better sense of what the exterior of the station might look like to keep in mind as we go through the documents. So I have a rendered site plan that kind of more clearly communicates where we're introducing new plantings and fencing along the perimeter to as a buffer between neighboring residential properties, where we have different sizes of scales of street trees along the Howard Street side, where we have the parking lot to the south of the property, which is the left hand on all of our documents. An apron onto Church Street that allows for the exit of the 6 emergency vehicle bays directly onto Church Street. The apron is wide enough to accommodate full vehicles to pull out of the building without blocking sidewalks or the street. We have also on site a communications tower. The size of this is still to be determined, which was something that would be explored further along in the design process as we work with the fire department and assess their needs and what can be accommodated on the site. There will also be a generator to provide power, since this is an emergency public safety building that we need to maintain power and occupancy to 24/7. And there'll also be a transformer. Those 3 kind of utility items are located between the building and the parking lot at the south side of the building. We tried to push the tower as far back from the street frontages as possible. We also have on the site a lane that allows emergency vehicles to drive around the back edge of the site, where there is a mechanics bay, which is intended to service not only the fire department fleet, but other vehicles in the town fleet. There are 4 parallel parking spaces. These will be designated for fire department personnel only, so no members of there'll be a sign located here to prevent members of the public from approaching the back side of the building. And then there's one of the 6 bays is a drive-through bay that allows vehicles to pull through or exit out on both sides. There also is proposed a covered parking structure that will be reserved for fire department personnel parking at the west end of the parking lot. And then these are just a couple additional rendering images. This shows the public entrance and this plantings along the street, where we have this kind of smaller scale trees closer to the entrance, and then some taller plantings along with bicycle parking. We're relocating the monuments and bench that are at the current station. And then this is a view of the approach to the building if you're coming down Church Street, where you have the 6 vehicle bays, and then this space here is the watch room that will have personnel in it monitoring vehicles coming in and out of the station. So this is our site. in the kind of context of the town on the assessor's map number 40, which was submitted. We mentioned, it's already been mentioned that it's on the site of the Lincoln School that's going to be demolished. Our building has a larger footprint, but is actually shorter in height by almost 20 feet than the existing Church Street building. This is the site survey prepared by Samiotis that shows the existing school building with the attached garage structure, parking, as well as the basketball courts that are at the south edge of the site, all of which would be demolished. This is the civil plan, and I think we're going to kind of toss it back and forth with the civil engineers if they wanted to walk through the parking lot layout plan, and I can kind of cycle through the different drawings, Matt, if you wanted to.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Kelsey. So she already went through kind of the general layout of the parking. I guess we can just talk about the setback variances that we need. So because of the need for the typical parking space size in town, which is the 10 by 20, which is required, we did our best to accommodate both the needs of the fire department, the needs of the public, as well as the drive aisle widths and the typical space size to try and meet as many requirements as possible. So we're requesting setbacks to be alleviated with a variance on the southern side. That's 10.7 feet. The east side, which is page down, that is the 4 foot setback, which Rob Rosa advised us on. The western, which is the top of the page, which we have, it's actually 6.1. It's just to the top right. That 2 foot offset is from the retaining wall. So yeah, up on the top right corner, you can see that's 6.1 feet. And then on the north side of the property, we're well within the setback. We have a 34.5 foot distance to the face of the building from the property line. So the three sides, southeast and west, as listed in our application. And if you go down, you can see that in the table, the zoning table, bottom right. So that's pretty much the parking. We have you can also zoom in on the spaces provided. So there's, a number of different sizes, but essentially 5 of them are compact 9 by 18s, 7 full size, which is the 10 by 20, 2 ADA spaces, which are variants for the town, but they are ADA compliant. 14 spaces, which are 10 by 19. That was an effort to, again, maintain as much length in parking as possible, while still maintaining a 22 foot drive aisle for one-way circulation. And then the 4 previously mentioned staff-only spaces at the back, which, we added in this count, but far up and above exceeds the requirements for the total number of parking spaces. And then you can see this is a table with the setbacks. And then on the left is just real quick, I'll talk about the average grade calculation. We did that according to town standards as well as the typical state standard. And again, with some advice from Rob on how to calculate it. So we just took the average grade of each of the significant faces of the building, 6 feet out from the building, and added that up to come up with this average grade calculation. So we can provide those backup calculations, but that's how it was done to show the existing average grade plane in reference to the proposed height of building. And then overall, I think the next sheet is probably the best to move on to. This just shows the stormwater layout and grading plan. So again, yeah, there's just the stormwater there. So generally the grades slope to the south, which is again plan left. So most of the stormwater capturing runs around the back of the building and in the parking lot. And then we're proposing a large plastic infiltration system underground to capture and treat all that stormwater. Because there are no public municipal drains in Howard Street, we're proposing to have an overflow at the back of the lot, which is that, plan northwest. So in a very large event under your storm, it'll overflow to that system, but it will not increase the runoff in any of those events. So it'll be the same condition or better in any sort of rainfall, heavy runoff event. And then the sewer we're proposing, if you go to the next page, to maintain the existing connection due to the moratorium, but tap into the Y. So if we just go to, it's the final sheet 4. So all the utilities will come off of Howard Street and Church Street, primarily this cluster here on Howard Street. So we've got the water, the gas proposed there. We'll probably the overhead wires, and then that's the sewer connection. So we'll actually adjust that per the moratorium so that the sewer on our property is kept in place, and we reuse the existing sewer on public property so that we don't have to do a new tap into the system. And then you can see the electric lines coming off of a pole on Howard Street, as well as the telecom. Yep. And that is pretty much the utility and layout plan. And then we just wanted to touch on the 10 performance standards that the town requires for the special permit. So we are addressing those. The first one is the compliance of the dimensional requirements set forth in the zoning bylaw. So again, we're asking for those 3 variances to accommodate the parking requirements for the building, as well as the needs for the public and for the fire department. For item 2, Kelsey can probably talk a little bit more about the landscaping, but she worked with Kyle Zick to, provide shade where it's necessary and buffer zones. For item 3, the vehicular and pedestrian movement, most of the circulation you can see in the front entrance. There's street access on the eastern side on Howard Street, and then the pedestrian ADA accessible pathway goes around through the back to the lot, which will be there's a striped area for pedestrians to walk out into the parking area and access their vehicles. And we located the ADA spaces as well as the electric vehicle spaces right in the front of the lot there. And then there is a staircase around back, but that will be non-public access, just staff only. So that's why that doesn't need to be ADA compliant. And then most of the back of house stuff, the maintenance, the fire trucks, the trash is all located in that western driveway. For item 4, we already discussed the sewage disposal at the front. We'll just maintain the existing 6-inch sewer connection, and then the trash will be located at the back with, again, back of house access for the fire department to throw out their refuse. Stormwater, again, we have the design. We furthered it along since the submission in preparation for the planning board submission. So we'll be providing the calcs and the stormwater report for that once we submit to planning. Same thing for the erosion and soil erosion control. We have a plan that we've developed that we always include with straw wattles and catch basin filters and typical best management practices to prevent any stormwater runoff from leaving the site and silt mitigation. Off-street parking, again, we met the requirements set out by the bylaws, as well as what the fire chief requested for off-street parking and vehicular circulation. For item number 8, I think Kelsey can speak to the site lighting. I believe she has a plan for that she can show. And then again, item 9 will be addressed in the soil erosion control plan. We'll provide that with planning board, and we can provide that upon request if the zoning board would like to see that. And then item 10, all permits will be sought after once we receive ZBA approval to move forward. So we will go through the rest of the necessary permits, which in this case, I believe is just planning board. So those are the environmental items. And again, we just wanted to thank Rob Rosa for his help in the zoning variances and the other assistance that he provided in preparing the set.
Thank you, Matt. I also, I guess, wanted to chime in with what the anticipated project schedule is for this. So right now we're seeking the special permit from the zoning board as kind of the first step in this project. The following steps are going to be going before the select board, and then ultimately with the goal of getting approval of funding for this project to town meeting and town vote for the public's approval. And if those votes are all to pass, then the next steps would be developing the design a little bit more so that we have the documentation required for the planning board submission, probably at least a meeting with the health department to discuss the personnel kitchen. And then the kind of building documentation process, and then a hiring of a contractor through a kind of design bid build chapter 149 process, most likely. So I think that this is a project that you wouldn't be seeing construction starting on until next summer at the earliest, if all goes according to plan. I also have in here, I can run through the kind of architectural documentation, and then I guess maybe it makes sense to open it up to the board for questions, and we can circle back to any drawings to help facilitate that discussion. We have the first floor plan where everything in red is what we call the kind of hot zone, where you're having the apparatus bay and support spaces associated with that are going to be exposed to vehicle exhaust and have sort of different ventilation requirements than the spaces shown in orange are the interstitial zones, and everything in white is what we call our cold spaces, where we have on the first floor some administrative offices and fire prevention, a 100-person training room, that can also be used for public assembly in the town as kind of determined appropriate by the fire department. There's a first aid and triage office. There's town IT relocating and a conference room. And then up on the second floor, we have some additional offices, and then the bulk of the personnel living quarters, where we have bunk rooms, and kitchen and dining and gym facilities. There's also up in the apparatus bay a training mezzanine that can be used for fire department training and storage. At the roof level, we have a series of, and kind of tell from the renderings, sloped roofs that we were using to try to both kind of break down the massing of the building a little bit, and then also oriented to the south for future photovoltaic solar power to be installed at the building. We have a roof access stair that this does exceed the zoning allowed maximum by 4'4" to the top, but it's not occupiable space. It's just for the roof access. And then these were the building elevation sheet as submitted. We, in doing our renderings, have developed the exterior a little bit. So these are kind of the most up-to-date versions of our renderings, where you can kind of start to see the difference in materials, where we might have a masonry base and sort of a white panelized facade exterior, and some steps taken to kind of break down the scale of some of the larger areas of glass. And then this was a site section that's bisected. You can see the match line that shows those sloped series of sloped roofs, kind of in a sawtooth. You can also see the areas where we are proposing having to cut existing grade. We have had a geotech survey performed. We think that there's, aside from some of the outcroppings that are visible on the site, that generally speaking, the ledge is below the level that we'll need to excavate down to. So hopefully minimal ledge removal. And this was the other site section cutting east-west with Howard Street on this side. And we have kind of dashed in the plantings to propose to help try to screen the building. And we have, it's visible kind of in this section, is that this zone here at the roof, where if this is kind of the high point of those sloped roofs, we would have a privacy kind of screen and then mechanical equipment that can be located up on the roof, but screened for visibility from neighboring parcels. And then this was the,
Policy, can
Yeah.
you go back and just point out the Lincoln School profile?
oh, sure. So we did dash in the Lincoln School profile on both site sections, and we're showing the existing height to the peak of the roof. Generally speaking, the width is actually, aside from the apparatus bay, is about the same. It's just kind of shifted farther to the back away from the Howard Street edge. And of course, on the north-south section, our building is quite a bit longer, but still it's about 20 feet, 21 feet lower to kind of the high point of our roof. And then what you're also seeing here in this site section is the carport structure for the covered parking. And then this was just the site electrical plan prepared by our electrical engineer, showing how communications can come in to the building and power. And then we just included their electrical site details for reference as well. So I think now we can open it up to questions from the board.
Mr. Baker, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Not at this time.
Mr. Galley?
I'm just it's not a big deal. I was just curious why the parking spaces were different sizes for like the employees versus the public to park in. Is it just because of where they put them, and that's just basically they could fit them there? And
Yeah, exactly. So we tried to, so the chief wanted to have at least as many spaces as possible that were full size, which is the 10 by 20, and that's where the covered parking is proposed. And that's because obviously a lot of the staff drives larger vehicles, trucks, etc. And then the reason that the bank to the south is the size that it is obviously the spaces need to be the same length. So we figured it made sense for the ADA spaces and the EV spaces, which would be a little bit more of a typical, more of a more urban size parking space, or in your case, like a compact size, to just fit those in there. And then the center ones, we had to compromise just to keep the 22-foot drive aisle. And that's why those are 10 by 18 or 10 by 19. So they're close to the standard Rockland size. They're just a little shorter. But it was just a concession to, so it's just the way the math worked out, while also maintaining the minimum 4-foot setback on the east property line.
thank you.
Yeah, so the reason that we're seeking so many of the different parking dimensional variances was so that we this plan was kind of a compromise of all three to try to maximize our parking. And if we were forced to have a fully compliant parking lot, we'd lose 7 of the spaces to get the adequate parking space length.
Okay, yeah, even with the 32 that you get, after you amended it to make 32 spots.
That includes the 4 parallel staff only
Okay,
parking spaces.
thank you. That's all I have for now.
Mr. Hayes, do you have any questions?
Yeah, my internet connection isn't great tonight, so I'm going to ask both of my questions in the hopes that I get them out in case there's a problem. So I would like to know a bit about the site selection process. Like, how did, I'd like to hear a bit about how this building ended up here. And I'd like to get some numbers on coverage, building coverage, building plus impervious coverage on this site.
There was a site search done that was before my time involved in the project, but I think I can pull up those materials. And John can probably speak.
Sure,
Okay.
I can try to address that, and then Chief Duffy can jump in as well. We did a site search analysis. We looked at three different site locations. This site, the existing station site, and then the old high school site just down the street, and went through that study. I believe this was kind of filed and reported to the town. The preferred site was this site based on honestly, based on the square footage. And each of the sites kind of has an evaluation matrix, which Kelsey's flipping
Yeah.
through.
Oh, yeah. Here.
Pros and cons for each of the sites. The fire station, the existing fire station site just was, without taking adjacent properties, could not work at all. It's just not large enough to accommodate the requirements of a modern station. The station site number 2, which I believe is the old high school, I think it's McKinley High School, right? That site had limitations based on its access to the back of the site and getting vehicles kind of parked in and exiting directly onto the main street there, Union Street. So we're happy to share these with the board. And you can review them and ask follow-up questions if you want. But this study was done back in 2018, looking at those 3 available sites to the town. I believe there was also a conversation about a 4th site that we looked at, but I think it was a commercial site, and I'm not sure it was became available to the town. Maybe Chief Duffy could follow up on that.
Thanks, John. As John said, when we first started looking at where a new fire station could go, we searched all over, the town itself. One of the criteria we wanted was currently on town property, property that was large enough for a fire station. And then, the most important was to have property that's located within the geographic center of town. So it didn't interfere with our response times to any other portion of town. Essentially, we're moving, 30 seconds down the street, or locating from the current station to the Lincoln School site. So we also considered looking at where the current Dollar Tree site is, at the corner of the Rockland Plaza and Market Street. But that site was already leased out to the Dollar Tree. The current owners weren't interested in working, with the town at all to change that, and that just would have added millions already onto the project. Now, I just want to say and let the people that are watching this meeting know that, nothing has been this project hasn't been funded at all. We still have to go to the ballot in April, town meeting in May, so it's in the hands of the people. But I didn't want, we were getting some rumors that people thought it was already funded, and it has not been. But little tangent there, sorry. But that's essentially how we came up with those 3 sites to look at, and then the current Lincoln School site. If we were to look at the current fire station, which is an excellent location within town, the site itself is just too small for a modern fire station. And we would have to almost look at taking, I think when we laid the current design down, it was 3 or 4 properties behind the station. And that's something we don't want to do. We don't want to, take eminent domain or anything like that for people. That gives us a fire station site, but it still doesn't alleviate the concerns of parking, and just trying to get apparatus in and out of the station. We can't train in that location because we're still, the ramp to the fire station is still too small. So that's how we ended up at the Lincoln School site.
And then as far as the takeoffs of the pervious and impervious areas. I'm not sure if I have those numbers.
Well, we have, yeah, I just ran a quick, I don't think we added it to the table, so we can provide a more accurate number. We do have the building lot coverage shown. So that is, I think, within the zoning bylaw. It's like one of the middle items there. There it is, yeah. Minimum lot area. So the building square footage is 32,670 square feet, and the lot is 72,580 square feet. So that, I believe, meets the zoning bylaw. The impervious coverage is roughly 73%. Again, we can provide a better figure to the board, but that's my rough calculation right now, is about 73% impervious, and that includes the building and all the parking areas.
Great. I had one follow-up, and this was just an impression that I had. When I looked at it, I thought, wow, if it needs to grow in the future, there's no like, how would you plan for expansion on this site? Like, and then at the same time, I thought, well, maybe it already is planned, because it's a lot of people in training, and I realized I had no idea how many people work at the fire station and how many people need to be in the training room, and how many bunks there have to be. So I would love to hear about sort of current needs, current personnel, the size of the building for its needs today and its future needs.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah, Scott, go ahead.
I can take that, Kelsey. Yeah, not a problem. So like your current fire station is 32 personnel. That includes 4 shifts of firefighters. Each shift is 7 personnel. You have a day fire prevention officer, a deputy fire chief, myself as the fire chief, and then a civilian executive assistant. We're extremely busy. We're doing 4,300 runs per year. That was our last year's numbers. So, we're always trying to get additional personnel. Like I said, we're extremely busy. This station is designed for 40 firefighters, which would be 4 groups of 10. So we're looking to have the expansion room for the future of the department, as well as some other additional administrative staff as the town grows and gets built out. Fire prevention becomes more of an issue. Hopefully, more fire prevention staff. Now, if that's 12 years, 10 years, 20 years, we just don't know when it would be. But we're trying to build that in, with some office space, obviously some bunking space, apparatus space. Currently, right now, we have 13 vehicles in the fleet. They do not all fit in the current fire station, and it was built to the station as designed now is built to accommodate our current fleet plus, I believe, 1 or 2 reserve engines or an extra ambulance. Right now we have.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would also just note that the current station, the area around the, if you've been to the current station, you understand how little room there is around each of the engines in the current station, and just for firefighter safety and ease of movement to get into the vehicles, this station is designed to accommodate kind of proper access to each vehicle and the ability to egress out of a larger bay. So, the apparatus has the room, by current standards, what they need. And I think Scott even mentioned to me at one point that the engines are now custom ordered for the town because the doors are so small and the bays are so small. So, these very expensive engines become even more expensive because they're all custom to fit into a small station.
So it's in my last question, just has to do again with the location and the size in this neighborhood, but I've lived not far from the current station, and I've noticed that I don't hear a lot of sirens. I think that it seems to me like you take great care in sort of how you interact in the neighborhood. But could you talk a little bit about, is there anything about this location that you would change, or just how your location here would impact this particular neighborhood, and how you might change some of your operations, or are there things you're doing now that you'd be sure to continue?
Sure, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Haynes. So currently, as we pull out onto Union Street, obviously Union Street's the main road, very busy. We're on the siren to let the public know we're coming out. So we stop traffic, any pedestrians. The hope is that down on as we pull out onto Church Street, Howard Street, the traffic is less busy, there's less foot traffic. The use of the sirens, would be diminished even more than what we do now. We try not to use the sirens unless, they're absolutely needed. And we want to be good neighbors. We want to be part of the neighborhood. I feel, you go into these cities, not that Rockland's a city, but you go into these cities and a lot of times the fire department is kind of the anchor of a neighborhood. We kind of want to be that for this neighborhood. We want to fit in. We want to respect, people's privacy, their quiet time. So, we can obviously look at, a policy where sirens only get used, absolutely as needed. At the current fire station, for the callback of personnel, we have the old roof horn. You still hear that every now and then. With our move to a regional dispatch, we utilize that less often now. And moving down to the new fire station, we would not bring that roof horn. As much as I love the horn itself, the times of relying on a horn to call back off-duty personnel has gone. We all have, cell phones and radios attached to our hip essentially. So, the concerns of the roof horn being at 99 Church Street are, there is no concern. It will not be there, unfortunately. We'll do what we need to do to be good neighbors.
What are the plans for lighting, signals, stopping, flashing lights, that sort of thing in the neighborhood? There's still a traffic plan yet to be done. I don't envision needing, with the larger ramp, more area to pull on to off of Church Street. I don't envision us needing any type of lighting on Church Street in the area of the fire station or Howard Street for apparatus movement. I think a concern of ours would be the East Water Street at Howard Street intersection. I think we're going to have to look at upgrading those old lights. Those are the oldest street lights in town. We'd probably have to look at upgrading those. There's been some talk about, are we going to need lighting at Union Street and Church Street? That's yet, I don't know. I think we still need to study that. But within, flashing lights, obviously the trucks would have their flashing lights, but as far as traffic signals, there would be, I don't envision anything in front of the fire station. Great. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Mr. Rosa, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Tanzi. Just a couple of quick ones. I know that they were asking for variances when it came to the parking. Chief Duffy, Deputy Chief Heaney, have you looked at the parking? Are you happy with it?
We are happy with the parking. It's, obviously we would love to have a ton of parking. But this is 4 times or 2 times or 3 times the size of what we have for parking now on Union Street. So I think it's a plus in the right direction. The civil engineers and the architects are taking great care to calculate it out and to come up with a plan that works for us.
Okay, I like it. The last thing was I saw some information on, not information, but there were a couple of people that commented on the mechanics bay. Did we talk about that yet? Has anybody asked questions on that? I don't think so. The only question that I really have on that is how much is that going to be used? Just as a gearhead, I know that impact drivers and impact guns make a lot of noise. So that's the only issue that I would really have is the amount of mechanics that's going to be going on there. I mean, I don't think this is going to be turning into an 8-hour day, 9-hour a day mechanics garage. And I don't think you guys think that at all, correct?
I think the anticipation for this mechanics bay would be if the town were to get a full-time mechanic. Currently, right now, a diesel mechanic is billing out at over $110, $120 an hour, probably even more.
Okay.
So it's very expensive to fix our apparatus.
Yep.
And also the highway trucks, police cars. The anticipation is hopefully if the town could ever get that type of mechanic, is that this would be their home. Again, the mechanics bay would be utilized during working hours. If there was ever, an emergency, at nighttime where it would need to be, very seldom and rare, but it'd be a concern. And, we can work on policies and again, being that good neighbor to, keep things to working hours and within the town bylaws and weekdays.
Is it something that, and this is going to the architects, is that something that we can look at when it comes to, noise dampening and some sort of, soundproofing for that area? Because it just sounds like that's good. That's going to be the loudest section of the building if that does turn it into a 5-day-a-week, situation. And I know nobody is really used to having that right there. I know we have the mechanic right up there next to the town hall, but just in this general area, is that something that can be done? Can we look into like some sort of soundproofing for that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of it is interior, which is actually good, right? We've got, it's kind of buried in the building. We would want on the interior to provide any sort of sound attenuation that we could anyways, because we don't, people in the building don't want to hear that either. So we can certainly work on doing that at the garage door and the exterior wall.
We might consider, maybe there's no glazing in that door. So we're not looking at triple glazing. Don't necessarily have to have glazing there. We can look at something that's a better acoustic option.
Yeah, I think a solid door would be fine there. In fact, it's almost preferred.
That's all I have.
Okay.
May I piggyback on that question?
Yes. Mr.
Just a quick question. Earlier, I thought I heard you say that the mechanics bay would be used for more than fire department vehicles. What other departments would be invited to have their equipment service there?
This would be looked at for all town vehicles. So it'd be a town mechanic.
Okay.
So highway department.
We have that already, I guess. We don't have that like in the other departments, don't have mechanical days.
No, we do not. The police department does not. The school department does not. Parks department does some of their maintenance, and the highway department does some of their maintenance, but the bulk of the major work goes out. So we're spending a lot on diesel mechanics.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I have one question. Have you looked at turning radius templates for these specific apparatus that are going to be stationed at this facility?
Yes, we did run a turning radius throughout the site for essentially the larger ladder size truck. So I think the idea with the mechanics bay is that won't necessarily fit the full trailer, full size truck, but it should fit pretty much any of the fixed wheel trucks that are shorter than roughly the 40-foot range in length, total overall length. But yes, the site circulation works. We've adjusted a few things since then, but we still maintain the truck turning radiuses to get in and out of the site and sweep through the pass-through garage door for the biggest vehicle that they have.
Okay. I noticed that you're proposing quite an extensive stormwater recharge system on site. Could you tell me what type of soils you found out there on site and groundwater conditions?
Yeah, so it was actually quite a bit of sand. So this size is likely to shrink. We've been developing that design a little bit more since this submission. So if anything, this is conservative. The soils were primarily a mix of sand and boulders with a little bit of silt, but it was mostly loamy sand. So pretty well draining soil. I think it was probably either a low A or a high B. I can check that for you. There was, of course, some boulders, so we had trouble getting deep. We encountered refusal on some of the test pits, the stormwater specific test pits. So we were only able to get down to about, I believe, 9 feet. So we didn't encounter water, but we suspect that it's a little bit deeper than where we obviously where we dug to, based on the site conditions.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that I had. Attorney Galvin, do you have any questions?
Greg, if I may, I have one
sure.
question.
Sure, Mr.
All of Mechanics Bay and all the apparatus bays, where are the drains, the floor drains tied into? What are that going to be tied into?
Those go to an oil separator. Which was the utility? So we have, in addition to trench drains at every bay, exterior trench drain, and these get tied into, and maybe it's not picked up on this drawing. Yeah, I know we discussed having an oil separator.
Yeah, I think it's the
Kelsey,
first
maybe
one. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, just to answer his question. So the internal drains for wash down, things like that, I assume that's your question. They'll be tied into the sanitary system, but they'll be passing through an oil water separator that's been sized by the plumbing engineers. That goes to the mechanics bay as well as the full bay that'll hold the emergency vehicles.
Okay, so that everything's going to eventually go into the town sewer?
Correct.
Okay.
And we do need to do that by code.
Okay, that's all I had, Greg. Thank you.
No other questions from the board? Attorney Galvin, do you have any questions?
Yes, I was hoping that maybe that someone could just explain for the benefit of the board and the residents about the lighting and if there'd be, and maybe I missed it, but was there a lighting plan that showed that the offsite migration would, there we go. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I apologize. I hadn't included this sheet in with the formal submittal, but can send as a follow-up. The light fixtures, these were just kind of basis of design placeholders for right now. We still have to revisit the actual individual fixtures, but as far as kind of the lighting levels and lighting spread, we are proposing some pole fixtures at kind of the perimeter of the site that are oriented towards the building instead of facing out to prevent light spill onto abutted properties. And generally providing enough lighting at the doors and entrances for vehicles and people, and then sufficient lighting coverage at the parking lot.
And just to add, Kelsey, I believe the fixtures are dark sky compliant with full cutoff. Is that correct too?
Yes.
No, that's helpful. One other question. Do the fire trucks, are they typically idling outside the station? I'm trying to think of any noise or other impacts that an abutter might be concerned with.
I can answer that. Attorney Gavin, typically, you know, there may be occasions where the trucks are idling outside the station, but very minimally, not for long hours of a day, you know, 5-10 minutes at a time. Or, you know, if the personnel are training on them, you know, it might be a little bit longer,
Okay.
but not long hours.
And then just the last question, is there a wash bay or something where any of the trucks could be washed?
I would hope, and the architects can answer this better, but I mean, we currently keep the trucks washed within the current station, you know, as where they're parked. So I'm kind of hoping that we're able to maintain that practice.
Okay, I just wanted to, I was trying to think of all the things that someone next door might want to know.
I think we'll be able to accommodate washing. So the kind of center line where it'll slope to a trench drain down the center of every bay that can accommodate hose downs in the station.
Mr. Tanzi, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. No other questions from the board. At this point, I would like to ask if there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this project. Please state your name and address and present your question to the chair, and we will answer it accordingly.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Ms. Parsons, you may ask a question. Is it for or against?
I'm not going to state either way. I just want to ask when the mechanics bay was added to this project and who gave an okay to discharge stormwater into the sewer system?
Well, they're not discharging stormwater into a sewer system. They are discharging a floor drain that has been treated with an MDC oil water separator, and then it's going into the sanitary sewer.
Well, that's a sewer system.
Yes, but it's not a stormwater system. It's a sanitary sewer system, and that is conventional practice. As far as who gave permission for the mechanics bay, I don't know as if it's.
No, it wasn't permission for the mechanics bay. It was permission for the sewer system to discharge the stormwater. But I don't recall the mechanics bay being on the plans up until now, and that it's for other vehicles to be serviced.
Well,
last I remember was a basketball court there.
Right. If I may, can I direct that question to the fire chief? He might have a better be able to explain better to you how that came about with the plan and planning for this facility.
Sure.
Okay.
As the building developed and we saw a need within the town, you know, I had requested that, we start looking into it, and the idea of putting a mechanics bay into the station. It's definitely a need for the town. There's definitely, a new facility. We'd be able to provide, some modern technology for a mechanic to be utilized within this facility. And again, it's just a need for the town.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Ms. Parsons?
Yes, but everyone's forgotten that we're paying for this.
Well,
We're paying for this whole building, and we need to know how much it's gonna cost us. And that was something that's added in.
We do have a cost estimate of the documents that were submitted for this zoning board hearing submission that's ongoing right now with our estimators. And right now we want to see kind of just what the cost as designed is going to be. But likely what will happen is that we'll review that when those numbers come in, and it'll have broken out line items for things like the mechanics bay area, and then we can discuss if any kind of value management should happen before the project goes to a town vote.
It's gonna include a mechanic and all of that cost.
Mr. Chairman, can I, or Mr. Vice Chairman, can I say something?
Yes, Mr. Rosa.
I know that while we are all concerned about the cost on this project, that has nothing to do with what's before us tonight.
But the mechanics bay is before you tonight.
It is, but only if we can, if it seems to be something that can work within the neighborhood, not the added cost, not the cost of the project.
I'm not asking about the cost. I'm asking about it being added into the project.
Ms. Parsons, they can add just about anything that they want into the project.
Right.
As long as it works for the neighborhood, then that's something that we can discuss. And they added in a mechanics bay. I understand what you're saying, but when it comes right down to it, there's a lot of things that they could have added into this that they didn't. So they felt that there was a need for this. They felt that it was something that could benefit the town. And quite honestly, it is. So what it comes down to is the cost. If that's something that you are concerned with, which we're all concerned with, look at it, bring it up at town meeting. This is not the venue to discuss cost or anything like that. I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chairman. I had to say that. I apologize.
Yeah, that's fine, Mr. Rosa. I mean, the bottom line is this equipment needs to be maintained.
Mhm.
And the most effective way of maintaining fire apparatus is to have it right there on site, where it doesn't have to be transported across country. That it can, that's an exaggeration, I'm sorry, but it can be more efficient, the most efficient way of servicing this equipment. And if you can get other departments' equipment serviced without having additional overhead expenses, that all is to the town's benefit. And I do not see this as being excessive. I do, from what I have heard, I think a very efficient and innovative forward thinking took place in the design of that mechanics bay. But as was stated earlier, this is not a financial issue, and that will eventually be addressed. But I do think that they're on the right path, quite frankly. At this point, is there anybody in the audience who would like, who was not in favor of this project and would like to comment? Okay, hearing none. Attorney Galvin, do you have any final thoughts or words or recommendations?
No, I mean, the only respect in which the plan doesn't comply with the bylaw is a few of the sections dealing with parking and setback in parking. The plan in large part, complies with the zoning bylaw, and it's only these few factors. I think if you were dealing with a situation where you didn't have enough parking for either the firefighters or the officers, staff that's going to be there, I think that's a different issue. I just recommend that if the lighting plan isn't final, that you make a condition for a final plan, compliant with the bylaw as a condition. I think the landscaping that's shown there, is kind of conceptual. I think as a condition, you're going to want that landscape plantings to survive. So you'd probably ask that be some type of a condition that required it to survive for a couple of years and be replaced if it failed. You might want to address the issue of irrigation of any lawn or sprinkler areas as a condition. Compliance with stormwater management regulations. They'll have to get all their other permits and approvals, local permits and approvals, including water and sewer. Those are the kind of the general things that I see.
Okay.
I mean, it's a special permit, so you have to, determine whether the use, is consistent with the purpose of the bylaw. It is a use that's allowed by right. So going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Those issues.
Right. Okay. All right. So,
Mr. Chairman, there was a letter from the police chief that was sent in our
yeah,
packet.
there's a letter from the police chief, and I believe there were 2 letters from abutting citizens that were also sent in. Typically, Mr. Haney, would you like to read those in to the record if you have them available?
Sure. Let me see if I can open them up here. Okay. So, received one this afternoon. So there's one letter. And again, if my internet is just too unstable, somebody else can just let me know and somebody else can jump in. So we have a letter dated January 13th to the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals about the new fire station from William J. Gammon, 38 Franklin Avenue. The letter reads, I am writing to the board at this time to say that I'm against putting a new fire station on the lot where the Lincoln School is at 99 Church Street. I do not think that it belongs in a residential neighborhood, and because problems with noise in the neighborhood from fire trucks leaving the station at all times of the day and night, 7 days a week. The Pine Grove on North Ave, is owned by the town of Rockland, might be a site you can look into as a place for the new fire station this time. Thank you, Mr. William Gannon. Bear with me while I get the other one opened up. Sorry, Deb, I'm scanning your, there it is. This is Leon Brownell. So another letter from Leon Brownell on January 12th to the zoning Rockland regarding zoning board meeting on January 17th. Dear zoning board members, my name is Leon Brownell and I live at 131 East Water Street. I am a party in interest regarding the variance and special permits for the proposed fire station at 99 Church Street. I do not think this is a good location for the proposed fire station for the following reasons. One, this is a zone R4, and to permit a variance would bring excessive traffic and noise to this otherwise quiet neighborhood. Two, the proposed mechanics bay would mean pneumatic air impact drivers will be added or will be used, adding excessive noise to the residents. Three, the extremely
Just
loud
wait,
fire
no, this is
horn.
going on. They put in a mechanic space so that they can service the police department.
Sorry. So number three, the extremely loud fire horns going off in the early hours at the existing fire station. I can hear from my house on East Water Street. I can't imagine what it will sound like only 200 feet from my home. Four, the sirens, diesel motors, and backup beepers on the fire trucks will add more noise to this neighborhood. Five, the variance to the off-street parking will reduce the allowed setback to the property, adding motor vehicle congestion to the area. Six, our property values may be diminished by allowing this variance. These are my concerns. Is this location that the town owns that has been considered? Thank you, Leon Brownell.
Okay. Well, with that, would I entertain a motion to close the public hearing portion of this meeting?
Could I ask a quick question before we do?
Certainly.
I just wanted to circle back. We talked, this came up in the very first, but I'd like to hear just a quick list of what we're considering tonight. So maybe a recap of what are we're looking for a special permit, and what are the variances and deficiencies? Just maybe a quick summation, just rattling them off so everybody has them together, exactly what we're looking for in terms of setbacks and parking and other variances.
Attorney Galvin, can you address that for Mr. Haynes?
Yeah, I just have to pull up the notice. If you can give me just 1 minute.
Sure.
Can I make a comment before you close the?
Let me just finish explaining the question, and then Mr. Chairman, you can decide whether somebody else should be able to comment, okay? So the use itself requires a special permit in the R4 residence zoning district. It's not a use that's allowed by right, but it's a use that's allowed by special permit, and obviously the site plan approval, okay? There are certain environmental performance standards also that have to be adhered to. The zoning variances are on the sheet. I think it's called C1. And I thought I had that up in front of me. I guess I didn't have it.
I can pull it back up if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think it just makes it really clear as to what was being asked. It's C1, I believe, where the zoning table is. At the bottom of the page. Yeah, there it is. So, Mr. Haynes, you asked what the variance provisions were. If you look halfway down the zoning table based on zoning bylaws, the backup distance by the bylaw is supposed to be 23 feet. And what's proposed here in a couple of small locations is 22 feet. The parking area setback on the east side of the building, well, in all sides, it's supposed to be 10 feet, but on the east side, there's 4 feet. So that's the closest portion of the asphalt to the boundary line. And I think that there's an area on the west side, 6.1 feet instead of 10 feet on the west side. Those are the areas that my understanding is this doesn't meet the technical letter of the bylaw.
And the parking table.
Correct.
For the size of the parking spaces.
Correct. They've asked for to design some compact spaces.
So those are the zoning issues. So use, parking setbacks, parking spaces. Those are the issues in front of us today.
Correct.
Thank you.
Um, was there one other abutter that had a quick question?
Yeah, sorry, that's me, Mr. Chairman.
Could you state your name and address,
Yep,
please? Sir?
my name's Christopher Sproles. I live at 47 Franklin Ave.
Okay, and what is your question, sir?
Just since we've lived here, that has been a vacant lot behind us. My concerns are with the change in drainage. There's not existing drainage right in that area where you're going to put catch basins on the back side of the building, correct?
They have initiated a drainage design. They are required to control their stormwater runoff, both in peak rates and volumes to that of the existing condition. It looks like they are proposing a retaining wall between you and their project, which means and that retaining wall, I believe, is a cut. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that would prevent any stormwater that's generated on the site from flowing back onto your property. But as far as all properties are concerned, even street layout lines, they have to control their stormwater runoff. They cannot discharge more stormwater runoff off their site than what is currently going off their site right now.
Correct. Right. Okay. I am in favor of this project.
Okay.
I want to let that be known. A lot of our questions were answered about sound and things that can be done, and the chief said maybe having some sort of sound ordinance implemented in the future, which is great. And but okay, so I just wanted, with any kind of excavations that might have been done for drainage, was that going to change the water tables or anything? We already have a very high water table as it is. That retaining wall will help to keep anything from coming in, basically, into our yard.
Generally speaking, yeah, the retaining wall will have these walls are designed with under drains. I can't guarantee that it's going to lower your groundwater table. It certainly won't increase it. An existing groundwater table is something that the applicant is not required to control, and the applicant really has no practical means or ways of controlling it. But it won't increase, it won't raise the water table level. In fact, you're going to be up higher than, it appears that you'd be up higher than what the average grade plane of the site is going to be at. I can't read, trying to read the existing contours, but
yeah,
if the applicant's engineer could jump in, it looks like you're up at
135, and I think we're so it's there's a bit of a mound behind the shed, and the oh, sorry, okay, so Sproul's property is the one just right there. Okay, so the back of your property slopes up to about 140 at the highest point, and on the other side of the wall will be about 135. So it will definitely be lower on the site, and even if your average site grade is a little lower, you know, for the most part, we're going to be below that because 135 is our peak, and then it slopes both directions to the south and to the north.
now, and I printed out the plans too. So that shows that's gonna have a privacy fence on the retaining wall as well?
Yes, I believe that's on the landscape plans, but that is, I believe, the plan.
Correct.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, very good.
Greg, if I may,
Yes,
to the applicant or their engineer, the retaining wall, will that be looked at by a structural engineer to make sure it's gonna be all right?
Yes, any retaining wall bigger than 4 feet needs to have a structural engineer stamp and approve it and design it. So most likely, we will certainly look into trying to minimize that, but most likely there will need to be a structural stamping it. If not, then it would be us or the LA stamping it.
We intend to have a structural engineer take a look at the retaining wall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're looking at a max delta of about 5 feet from the highest point of the retaining wall. And then it kind of actually, the grades kind of even out and meet each other on both sides towards the south end of the site. And we are keeping the retaining wall set back from the property line so that it won't be directly.
Are you gonna have some way of keeping curious little ones from climbing and walking down the wall?
It will have a privacy fence on top of the wall so that, it would be difficult to climb, but I guess if someone can always climb a neighborhood fence, so. Do you have something that you're thinking of, a way of deterring someone from climbing the fence?
I'm just, because there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood and a lot of kids walk down Church Street to get to school and from school into that neighborhood. And they see something new. They may just want to venture over and try to climb on the wall. I just think the privacy fence maybe at either end, putting a small.
Yeah, I think I understand. So you're saying maybe put some sort of privacy gate or something there so people don't walk up along the side of the building into the backyard? Yeah, we can absolutely do something like that.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Mr. Galley?
Yeah, I don't know if this is appropriate for this meeting. I'm just gonna throw it at you, Mr. Vice Chairman. The police chief didn't mention it in his comments about traffic or anything, but Howard Street and Church Street are both wide roads that are unpainted for lanes or anything. Is that, who would decide or discuss maybe to make it a little bit safer for people entering those roads from adjoining streets like Water Street or Union Street or whatever, that Webster Street, they would be coming, on their side of the road? Because it's a rare thing, but I could imagine if a fire truck is coming out, but they're not blasting their horn or they just don't see the lights, they could come kind of sharp on the turn onto the road and then be blocking the path of the fire truck, just because they just kind of cut the turn sharply. But if there's lines painted, people will be less inclined to, cross the median strips. And I'm just wondering, when is it appropriate, or who would discuss that and when?
Well, that you bring up traffic circulation. It's really a traffic engineering question.
Also something that the planning board has to look at, not us.
Okay.
There is site plan approval for this?
Yes.
Yeah, to stripe a street, it's not really that big of a deal. It might even be able to be done by the Rockland Highway Department if necessary. But
Mr. Baker can just get out there and do it.
Nice.
The chairman said it's for the plan.
I'll be
That's
long
really a
retired
question for
before
the
they
planning
build it.
board.
Yep.
So,
All right, thanks. I was just curious. I didn't,
yeah,
the thought.
okay. All right.
If I may,
Uh,
before,
I'm sorry,
Please.
Mr. Baker.
the letter from the Rockland Police Chief. I won't read the whole thing, but the last paragraph, my only suggestion would be that consideration be given to post Howard Street, no parking on that portion of Howard Street from Church Street down to East Water Street. This will allow fire apparatus the ability to freely make the turn onto Howard Street from Church without any potential hindrance. That was his suggestion. And I think that is a very good idea.
Yeah, we can condition that.
Mr. Tansey,
Yes.
generally speaking, the zoning bylaws don't regulate the uses of ways. That
Okay.
would be by a general bylaw that the selectmen or the highway department could get involved in regulating. It's kind of important because, they've designed this property on a particular lot, but the regulation of uses in a street or a way is really a general bylaw issue.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Galvin. So with that, if there's no other questions, can I entertain a motion to close this portion of the public hearing?
Motion to close this portion of the public hearing.
Okay,
Second,
so moved. All in favor?
Roll call.
Mr. Haynes,
yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes,
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Rosa,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Nice.
Okay. So, the open hearing portion of this meeting has been closed. We're gonna deliberate. You're welcome to stay. You really can't ask any questions while the board is deliberating because the open hearing portion of this meeting has been closed. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
If this portion should take a while, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, we can take a 5-minute break.
motion to take a 5-minute break.
Okay, so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. I'm in favor. Mr. Haynes, yes. Mr. Galley.
Aye.
Okay, all right, we'll be
Yeah, I
back.
can't
at
deny.
5.
I wouldn't deny Stephen a break.
Thank you.
Back in 5.
This meeting is being recorded.
Greg, which computer are you using? You signed in twice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm using my old computer, but I tried to sign in with my new, and it just I can't get the audio on my new computer. But I can't get my Outlook either, so I guess that makes up for it. I hate switching computers. I just,
I think we all do.
nothing but glitches.
You can ask Robert's iPad. He's still having issues.
Robert's
You just do what I do and just keep using the same 1995 computer forever. Here with Windows 5.
I can't do that.
I can't.
My software won't run on that. And plus the computer dies.
I can't get this to hook up to the printer. I can't get my iPad name off of there. I think I'm gonna have to call,
everybody back.
I'm gonna have to call a Geek Squad.
Mm. Yeah, but that's what they call the zoning board.
Nice.
Greg, when we start up, you gotta let the public know who's voting on this.
We all are.
Yeah. Can Rob vote on it? Can Rob Rosa vote on it?
Been here the whole time.
Oh, you have?
I have.
All right. So you haven't missed. All right.
Nope, have not missed a minute.
Just incognito.
So the answer is all permanent members that are in attendance are voting, right?
You have to publicly say who's voting.
Okay. All right. Voting on this will be Bob Baker, Stephen Galley, Rob Rosa, Tim Haynes, and myself. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to discuss?
I think pertaining to the special permit to go in the municipality facility in an R4 zone. I believe they've been researching this town for the proper spot to put this for 4 or 5 years. And I think this is really the only big spot the town owns right now, as far as putting this into it. I know it's not gonna sit well with some of the neighbors, but we gotta think about if we took 2 smaller lots that the town owned and built 2 fire stations, we'd be doubling the price of it. So I think they've done their homework real well to find this property to use it.
So is that a motion to approve with conditions?
Yes.
Yeah.
I second that.
So, what I would like to just interject here is a fire station has to be centrally located in a town. You can't have it stuck on the outskirts of the town and have a fire apparatus truck cross the town to effectively tend to an emergency. So unfortunately, there's really no practical way of getting around not citing a fire station in a residential area or next to a residential area. There's not a whole lot of traffic congestion in the area where this facility is proposed to be sited. The road widths are very adequate and substantially wide, which will help dispatch the apparatus that's going to be housed at this facility. So I do echo what Mr. Baker had said, that I think they did do their homework. I think they did very well. And I think this is the optimal location. So so we got a motion that's been seconded. Any other discussion from any of the members?
One last thing, Mr. Tanzi, one last thing. Tim brought up the fact that, we should look at, at least he wanted this kind of stated, that we should look at the requirements for the, for the approval of a special permit, plus look at the variances. Do we have to vote on each and everything, or should we, does there need to be any more discussion?
I think what we've done in the past is actually, we probably should have looked at the variances and voted the variances first and then the special permit. Isn't that what we typically do, Attorney Galvin? So,
Yes.
why don't we look at the variances? They're pretty straightforward. The dimensional variances. There's the backup aisle that went from 23 feet to 22 feet. It's a 1 foot dimensional variance, and the parking lot is going to be used by people who, predominantly the same people, the people who work at the fire station. So they're going to be familiar with the site. There were some compact spaces. They reduced the width from 10 to 9 feet. And also the length of one of the space was at by a foot. But these are still typical parking space dimensions that you can find in many of the towns today. And then there's the setback off of a property line. There's a 6 foot variance and a 4 foot variance.
Is that the dimension that they're requesting, or is that the dimension that they need? If it's a 6, because if they want to be 6 feet, it's a 4 foot variance.
No, it's what they need.
Okay.
In other words,
You got the east side, it required 6 feet, and the other side, it required 4 feet.
Right. They do have landscape islands in there that pretty much gave you a buffer, a landscape buffer of 10 feet, but not within the property line, or close to 10 feet. Any discussion on the board, how they feel about granting those variances?
Well, do we have to put on each one of them separate, or?
No, you could vote collectively, but you have to run over the statutory features, and they all have to be present, owing to the soil shape and topography of the lot, especially affecting this lot, not the neighborhood in general. The applicant will suffer hardship, financial or otherwise, in the absence of the zoning relief. And by granting the relief, you're not granting them a special privilege, and you're not going to substantially derogate from the spirit or intent of the bylaw. And, a 1 foot variance is truly a de minimis variance when you're talking about backing up in an internal way. The way the board has looked on buffers before, because we have a whole slew of non-conforming properties where commercial uses were developed next to residential uses. And what we've always tried to do is make sure that if we didn't have 10 feet, we always made sure there was an adequate buffer. And in this case, I think you have fences and retaining walls and things like that form the buffers, which we would impose on them if they didn't propose it already. But the key is to make sure that residences in particular were buffered from parking areas, so that there wouldn't be any spillover of lights and things like that. And we've always preferred to have natural vegetation wherever we could, and then we supplemented it with fences wherever that was not possible. And it looks like the design engineers have done exactly what we've typically done.
Yeah, I would add too, this is we're trying to create more density, more things, more activity in the center part of town. So keeping a use like this, keeping the sort of the vibrancy of downtown going, I think is really important.
Mhm. I make a motion to grant the variances.
Yeah, motion has been made, has been seconded by Mr. Hayes. Any discussion from the board?
I just want you to make sure that you move to grant it subject to conditions, because you're going to want the landscaping to be viable and the fence to be up before they open to use.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Duly noted that we will be voting on these variances subject to conditions. So let me take a roll call vote.
We gotta do the conditions first.
Attorney Galvin, can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, so I was going to suggest that the landscape planning remain viable for 2 growing seasons after that's installed, and be replaced, as soon as practical if it's not surviving. And I would also, recommend a condition that required the landscaping buffer and or fencing to be in and completed prior to the opening of the use.
You had mentioned irrigation as well.
I did mention I've forgotten what they've said about the irrigation, but I assume they're connecting to municipal water. So I don't know whether a well is possible there or not. So my guess is that it isn't.
The other condition would be that they meet all other boards and commissions of the town of Rockland.
Right.
Would we also add a condition for the gate suggested by Mr. Baker Senior?
Gate. Oh, on the retaining wall?
On the Church Street side, you didn't want kids to have easy access?
Well, just at the retaining wall, something there to stop the kids from climbing up those, because the retaining wall is gonna slope towards Church Street.
Yep.
To a negative, and in the backside it's gonna be negative, so that's gonna be a nice, could be a roller, skateboard ramp for them, something like
And
that. I'm
there's
just
already a fence on it. There's already going to be a fence on it.
on top of it.
Yeah.
But there's still, if it's a 12-foot wide, 12-inch wide retaining wall, the fence post is only 8 inches post. So you're still gonna have room. If there's a little leadway for the kids to get on that thing, they'll get on there. And I just don't want to see them coming off that wall and getting hurt. And then the town, I think if we catch it now, instead of after someone gets hurt.
Well, I'm a little bit trying to picture this. The wall's 12 feet wide, 12 inches wide,
right?
With a 4-inch diameter or square post centered on the wall, on the top of the wall. How is a kid gonna skateboard on the wall?
You see them all the time skateboarding on a railing going down a walkway, and that's only 2-inch.
Yeah, but that's 2 inches. That's 2 inches, and you're free left and right of the thing.
Yeah, down the top of a rail.
Yeah, down the top of the rail.
This is got to be a smooth metal rail. It's gonna be like a 5-foot fence on top of the retaining wall. So
I understand that, but if you looked at the plans, it goes from the highest point and it tapers all the way down to 0 on the Church Street side to the actual pavement. You're still gonna have 4 inches on either side of the post and the fence.
Bob, two things. I don't mean to cut in on you. I don't mean to cut in here, but here's 2 things. Number one, it's not going to be possible to do what you're talking about. As a former skateboarder, it's not going to happen. All right, that's number one. Number two, if you're trying to stop people from traveling down that open space to get to the back, basically like cutting through the property, we could condition it to put a fence across that section. So it stops people from going down that section. But I do hear what you're saying when it comes to that, when it comes to the retaining wall. But what you're talking about isn't going to happen. It's physically impossible. Now, is the daredevil little kid going to try and climb up that thing and walk a couple of, walk down that? I mean,
well, keep in mind, this is a fire station. It's going to be manned by plenty of people 24/7.
24 hours a day.
So
exactly.
The ambulance will be right there.
Policing to, if a kid's going to do what a kid's going to do, but I really don't think that, that there's a real threat, given that there's going to be safety personnel manning this facility 24/7.
Let's do what they do with a dumpster. Let's put a sign on it that says no climbing on and this, that, the other thing. At least something like that. You're not going to be able to stop people other than the fact that it's going to be manned 24 hours a day. More than likely, there's going to be cameras. So we're going to see what, the people inside the building are going to kind of see what's going on. There's going to be lights and stuff not pointed on other people's properties, but I hear what you're saying, Bob. I do hear what you're saying, but I think that's going a little far. And I don't believe.
I think your idea would maybe having it posted,
keep it simple. That's the way that I look at it.
Just as a lead, then we can, if someone did get hurt, fall off and get hurt, it's posted,
Exactly.
And it's less likely that a lawsuit will come out.
No, I dig it. And also I can say this really isn't this isn't necessarily a requirement of the, for the
special permit or
variance. That's more of a special permit situation. I think we're still looking at the variances themselves. I reiterate, I make a motion to approve the variances only at this point with the conditions as stated when it comes to the requirement of the landscaping buffer being 2 years, minimum 2 years, and what was the other thing? Replaced immediately if for some reason they start to die, and that's really about it.
And to meet all other.
Oh, and to me, yes. I'm sorry. Thank you. And to meet all other requirements of all other boards and then commissions within the town of Rockland. So there's my motion.
Okay.
I second that.
Rock and roll.
All right. All in favor? Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yeah.
Mr.
Yes,
Roder,
sir.
and I'm a yes as well. All right. So
Special permit.
special permit.
I make a
still
motion
have
to
that.
approve with conditions.
There already is a motion for it.
Exactly.
So we got a motion.
I'll second.
To approve with conditions. Seconded by Mr. Haynes. Any discussion?
Just the conditions.
Just the conditions? All right, you want?
What are the major complaints at this point? Number
Noise.
one, noise. That we did perfect. Number one, noise. Let's recap what Chief Duffy said about noise.
No
We'll
room.
keep the, yeah, they said they'll keep the sirens down to a minimum use in that area. So probably till they get to the end of Howard Street onto Webster, if they're going that way, to the traffic light the other way, or up to Union Street.
Okay. So we could say a condition would be a written, some sort of written action plan for the control of noise, and, to be approved by the building inspector.
Sounds good.
Yeah, if the fire chief can submit a noise mitigation plan, can be approved by the building inspector.
Great. This is subject to site plan approval too, right, by the
Right.
planning board?
Rob, what are you doing?
Rob's on the move.
Yeah.
Just taking. Yeah, I'm taking a walk. Sorry, I'm sitting down.
They'll have to meet all the boards and commissions in the town. Just that same one.
Good. We've got a final lighting plan that's going to be needed at some point. It was still being reviewed, and with the
dark sky compliant and compliant with the zoning bylaw.
Perfect.
Bob, would we want to see a final set of plans for this?
Well, my guess is
These are only conceptual plans right now.
My guess is that Tom Rubel will require a final set of building plans. So what you could say is that you're approving these plans, but a final set of plans acceptable for building permit purposes shall be approved by the building commissioner, provided they're consistent with this decision.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that.
Want to talk about Chief Zioli and his request, and it wasn't a requirement, but basically his advice as to how to treat Howard Street.
I think we ought to address that outside of zoning, because I agree with the chief's sentiments completely, but I think that'll have to be adopted by parking regulation or something that the select board will have to do in consultation with the highway department.
Agreed. If they're going to have a training for 100 people, there's going to just have to be some addressing of parking in general, and carefully looking at rules, because if you're going to have meetings there, there is no parking along that street as it is.
If we do suggest that, send a suggestion to the planning board, I would post both sides of Howard Street. Because the residential's on the other side, park there all the time.
I think the reality is that the planning board won't be able to do anything for the same reason that the zoning board can't. It really has to do with the regulation of the streets and ways, which is a select board matter.
One thing that as far as noise is concerned, there's talk about insulating the mechanics bay. How does the board feel about adding a condition that if a mechanics bay is to be worked in there, utilized in that location, that there'd be some type of insulation or other noise mitigation, soundproofing within that area?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Solid door sound ordinances apply.
Work times limited to normal business hours, like 8 to 5 or whatever,
Yeah, unless it's an emergency,
unless it's an emergency. Thank you.
you know. I mean, if, you know, a major piece of equipment is inoperable and you know, the guy has to work 2 hours, you know, overtime just to get that piece of equipment so that it can be operable, you know, that night, you know, I think there should be some exceptions given the nature of this facility, and that it is an emergency facility.
Well, we could put mechanic hours to be from 7 to 6, Monday through Friday, except in an emergency.
Yeah,
I can live with that. Yep. What else we got?
so we covered the landscaping, the lighting, noise.
Remind me if the heights on anything were an issue.
The tower was the only thing over 36 feet. So the stair tower to the roof, everything else was under.
Yeah, it was not habitable space.
Okay, so I'm not gonna worry about it then.
Could we make them, if they do put up a cell tower, a communication tower, could we have them try to blend it in by painting it to blend in with the trees and stuff?
Like one of those Vermont cell phone towers that
Yeah.
there's tree branches on it.
No, they paint it like brown and green and, you know, make it look, because most of them are silk.
Mhm.
know?
It's kind of in the middle. I mean, it's not like it's in a forest. So,
Some of those poles go over 100 feet.
no, I mean, it's going to be there. You know, it's on the drawing.
Good point, because in the morning it could reflect light onto neighbors, and if it's bright silver or bright shiny. So yeah, that would be a light annoyance for them.
Camouflage. you want to camouflage it?
Yeah. Some sort of camouflage, and I could dig that, but would that fall under design review?
Well, they're gonna have to come back to us for the tower anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So let's deal with it. Let's deal with that when they have to come back to us. If they have to come back to us anyway.
That's right. I just thought of that, Rob. That they're
Thank
gonna
you,
have to
Bob.
come
I
back to
appreciate
us.
Yeah. All right, so let's put that out. What's next?
I have nothing else.
Deb, you got all those conditions, kind of, sort of?
Yep, kind of, sort of. I got them.
Anything about, anybody have any concerns about the idling trucks? I mean, it just came up briefly, just, you know, short amount of time that they would need. Is there anything we want to add about the idling of trucks, length of time of day, anything?
I've never seen them idling. I don't know if this is the case or not, but I don't ever remember seeing any of those trucks just sitting there idling.
But he was saying when they're training and at other times it might be 10 minutes. It didn't seem like something to be concerned about from the answer, but it is a neighbor concern.
No,
I would imagine daytime.
Say again?
I would imagine training takes place during the day.
I'd recommend you not make a condition. Okay.
Because
if they idle the trucks there for a long period of time, you're going to get a noise complaint. And I think that the fire department can address that in a sensible way, and because of its proximity to the residential neighbors. I don't think you need to say, it sounds like it's not a big problem.
I agree. I'm digging at this point. I really don't have any other concerns, and just sort of cycling
Going back to what everybody else said. Yeah. Yep.
Greg, just to let everybody know, most trucks now have a switch on them that once it's a timer, when it sits idle, After 5 minutes, they shut themselves down. It's an automatic shutdown now.
Okay. I don't want to condition anything related to training. I mean, they might have to train at night to, you know, work with, you know, equipment under poor lighting conditions. I mean, fires that happen at night, maybe they have to train at night. So I'd caution the board about over conditioning when it comes to training. If their training is limited to 10 minutes, you know, we all have to make our sacrifices as a town.
Most of the time, they go to the landfill and train out back. Because we've gone up there and flipped cars over. And they train, cut them up and stuff up there.
Yeah, I would think that would just be part of the noise, you know, their noise policy, you know, that they'd be bringing forward. The neighbor brought up the backup, you know, the backup beepers, idling trucks, you know, and the sirens, you know. So I think we've covered in the request, you know, for just a noise policy to be submitted.
Anything else?
I can't think of anything else.
Okay.
Have we been assigned the months of the calendars that will be put on for the fireman's calendar? When the fire department makes
You're putting yourself up for like March.
Nice.
I'm more of a fall guy, so.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm glad
Okay.
there'll finally be a big facility for the fireman's ball.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. There we go. And I still haven't gotten to drive the Punisher yet. I need to drive that forestry truck. That thing is insane.
We got the old one down the highway barn.
Yeah, that's getting cut up. No. All right,
Can
can we
make a motion then to approve the special?
Yeah, I already made the motion. I already
Okay.
made the motion, and I think we got a second on that already.
Did you
Right,
second?
yeah.
Okay, all right, it's been second. Okay, roll call vote, all in favor. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Rosa,
Absolutely, yes.
and I'm a yes too. That's a vote.
Well,
Okay. Do we have any minutes that we have to approve or anything? I don't think we had anything from last.
Do we want to get the minutes approved for Greenwood Street so we can put the decision in?
Decisions filed,
This,
right, Rob?
yeah, I got the decision in my email.
Thought we had to have minutes for it too, with the filing. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn,
I'll second that.
seconded. All in favor, Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Rosa.
oh, yeah.
I'm a yes too. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time and your service. And
Get well, Rob.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
it's good to see you all again.
you're looking good, Rob.
Oh, we're trying. We're changing. 2023 is nothing but change for this guy. So
Good. Change for the better.
besides, they won't let me leave the zoning board. So and it's a thing now.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Okay. Goodbye,
See you
everyone.
next time.